All right, welcome to another live event here at CryptoVagabonds. We have a lot of things to cover this week. This week was by far the week for AI. We have seen an explosion of AI after DeepSeek and now Alibaba and a few other companies making sure that their AI are ahead of the other ones. And we had headlines or a post from Mike Zuckerberg saying that they are copying everything they can from DeepSeek. So as I predicted before, we're going to be having a lot of AIs. I think this is going to be the explosion. The same way that Bitcoin enabled for 30,000 cryptocurrencies, we're going to have thousands of AI coming to life, and we already see this happening this week. Other things we have to talk about is also Dogecoin. I believe there's going to be a Dogecoin ETF in the future. We already see a fund for Dogecoin. We're going to be diving a bit more into that situation, Dogecoin. Also, there is USDT Tether, which will be coming to the Lightning blockchain. Now, the question that I have is because we know that Tether can freeze accounts on Ethereum blockchain, on Tom blockchain. Now, the question is, would they be able to also freeze accounts or freeze Tether on Lightning? That's the question that I have. And those are the things we're going to be covering today. Those are our main headlines. And we have here Cora, Chuche, and Marcus. And if you guys do not know who I am, my name is Boof. I have been in the crypto space since 2015, and I do not have a bank account. So I have a different relationship with cryptocurrencies than other people. We also have an academy, and I have been coaching people ever since I entered the crypto space. So without any further ado, let's start the live. I think we should start with the explosion of AI, Corda. What is your view on this?
Yes,
So
this week also ChatGPT, they were releasing some other models that are claiming to be better. I feel they try to push it like they try to release this faster because of what's going on. They want to be ahead again. And I don't know, I heard about Alibaba, but you mentioned other one too
yeah,
that
there's
they
a ByteDance, the company that owns TikTok is also launching their own AI. And I believe there'll be more now that the code is open source and you can operate the code offline. I think we talked about this in the past. There is a few platforms that enables you to do this. I think there's an LM Studio where you can download the code from DeepSeek, be offline, and train that device or that AI to do what you want it to do. So you can kind of narrow, specialize on something specific. I think we're going to be seeing a lot of different AIs narrowed to one single function. I think that's not going to be the future. I have many ideas myself on what I would like an AI to be specialized. I think they call that distillation, where you use all the potential of AI into one specific microscopic target instead of like everything. Because the way we operate now, when you ask something for ChatGPT, it uses the entire database to answer your question. Whereas if you have, for instance, something, let's say, pertaining to heart surgery, and then instead of using the knowledge that it has on the stars and the planets, just use the knowledge pertaining, for instance, to human anatomy, and then have that AI specify just, for instance, on heart surgery or eye surgery or something like that. So instead of using the entire database of knowledge, use the database that is pertaining to that particular subject. And I think more and more we're going to be seeing like specialized AI. I, for instance, would love to have the time to take, for instance, DeepSeek code and train the AI with one specific task. Let's say, for instance, trading. I think we're going to be seeing AI tools. By the way, we're going to be talking about that also, about scams that are going to be used by AI. So, but this week, in my view, was the AI week. We have a headlines here. I don't know if Marcus want to say something before we go for the headlines. Marcus?
No, I'm okay, Boof. Nope. I'm behind on this, so go ahead. I want to keep following.
Okay, let me show here. We have here headlines. Alibaba releases AI model and it surpasses DeepSeek. Now, we can see here the unusual timing when the Gwen 2.5 Max release on the first day of the Lunar New Year, when most Chinese people are off work and with their families. So there was also the New Year's, the Chinese New Year's. This is the snake new year for the Chinese. So, and then you can see Chinese AI startup DeepSeek, meteoric meteoric rise in the past 3 weeks. So DeepSeek was the biggest one. Then they launched another one from Alibaba with their DeepSeek, and Seiza surpassed a few others. You can see here DeepSeek, R1, TikTok, owned by ByteDance, released an update of its flashing AI model, which claimed to outperform Microsoft-backed OpenAI. So it's a race of the AIs. And there was an event in China. China is against all the odds. Everyone thought the US was leading the industry. No, I think China is leading the industry of AI. The same thing for quantum computers. I think there's a few tech industries where China is ahead. We see China being ahead on automobile. We see China being ahead on AI. And I think China is going to be ahead on a microchip as well. They also launched different microchips that seems to be better than the microchips from, for instance, NVIDIA. So I think China will be leading this race on AI and microchips. That's my view. I think Juche has some other things that he wants to share with us about this same subject on AI.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Juche.
I wanted to say just real quick. Oh, sorry, Juche, go ahead.
No, go ahead, please.
No, just because you're mentioning this about the China leading the race, is like I feel that these sanctions that they were pouring on China just, it was like an incentive for them to just be better and to just because ByteDance is Chinese, Alibaba, DeepSeek, and so where are these chips and these these microchips coming from? It's like I think sometimes the US is a little bit thinking that they are the best and nobody. Do you remember this video? What is the name of this? I think he was like the CEO of Google.
Ford? For the automobile is
You're
Ford.
talking about Eric Schmidt. Eric Schmidt was
He was
saying
saying
that he's 2 years ahead.
Yeah,
The
Is
US
this
is 2 years ahead. Yeah, that was Eric Schmidt of Google.
Yeah. Former CEO, and he was saying that the US was 3 years ahead of China, and absolutely not.
There was another video. Yeah, there was another video again from the Inside China group on Inside China Business channel on magnets. How there was a financial report that China was going to have this shortage of magnets, and magnet price was going to go up. All this, and that was completely wrong, because in the meanwhile, like they were thinking, like to think that China doesn't know about its own problems is like a grand understatement. Like again, everyone gets hit up by investing in China in the wrong areas, and even some right areas, because it's a completely different system. But yeah, I'll just share. There's this other one. Speaking of AI, I just throw it over my head here. But this one came out of RT, which some of you guys don't even have access to because your RT.com is blocked in the West. But this is if you can see, like, India to develop DeepSeek rival this year, IT minister. I'm just going to read the headline. Just New Delhi plans to launch an AI model by the end of 2025 to compete with DeepSeek and ChatGPT, Ashwini Vaishnaw has announced. So, and they do put a price of lowering the average price per AI computing unit from $129 per hour. 1.2 billion AI emissions. So yeah, pretty interesting as well. That one, I think. So I think it's a narrative that's coming along right now where you have all these AIs that are gonna come online. DeepSeek's like the first disruptor, but India is gonna come online, and then, as I was saying, there's gonna be what's called, there's a new word now that we're learning, which is distillation. Previously, distillation we've heard just in the context of water. When you have distilled water
or beverage or hard beverage, right?
Yeah. So, but in this case, distillation is basically, as Booth mentioned, like for heart surgery or some kind of specific topic. Let's say it could be real estate, or it could be, it could be investing, it could be trading,
gold.
Yeah, it could be any kind of specific topic, and then you have the AI go and pull all the data relevant to that kind of topic, and then what you have is you can imagine that the database is obviously going to be much smaller, right, than the whole thing. So then, by having a smaller thing, it can then, depending on how small, it can then run on something. Some people are posting in on Reddit on the it's called Llama subreddit or something, where people are running these LLMs. They're called LLMs, large language model, on things as small as a Raspberry Pi, which is like $100, not even, between the memory and the keyboard and something to get going. So now you're going to have these AIs that are going to run on something maybe as small as a Raspberry Pi that's going to do certain things, whether it's weather related for agriculture or other things. So there's going to be a lot of innovation and stuff like that around. Yeah.
I
And
saw a
then the,
demonstration. So I saw a guy demonstrating. He's running a DeepSeek model on something specific, and in his case, he had I'll say a shelf with computers that he was using to mine some crypto, and he just reverted that into AI. And what happened was it wasn't as fast to process things. So instead of taking, for instance, a minute, it was taking 3 or 4 minutes to give like very complex answers. But he could run on his own home, and it's just a matter of taking more time. And DeepSeek was giving the thought process. So his show, for instance, the same thing online would take like a minute and a half, but running on his own computers just went from 1 minute and a half to 3 to 4 minutes. So it's 3 times slower, but he was able to run offline. So that to me was very impressive. Is that what we're talking
yeah,
about
that's
when
all.
those, yeah.
Yeah, that offline thing is a whole nother, you know, wrench in the mix, or as they say in the UK, spanner in the works. But yeah, that's a whole nother thing where to be able to run offline is very, very powerful. And there's different, as the Inside China guy says and mentions, like there's all these different narratives, like we were mentioning on last week, whether it costs $6 million, whether it costs this much, whether they stole information. But fact is that the cat's out of the bag and the code is out there. So, good luck stopping it, barring some sanctions. And I was thinking to play some video on that from
You
the
can
guy, but
play. It's the same
uh,
thing I said on myself. Like, doesn't matter how much it costs. Doesn't matter how it came to be. It is out of the genie is out of the bottle, and the genie is not going back into the bottle. That's it. Like, we got to put up,
yeah,
and I think we need to prepare for a world where there's gonna be look. There's gonna be hackers. There's gonna be ill-intended people running this thing offline. I can imagine a lot of people who are mining crypto and they say, "Oh, this is not profitable." But what if I now use this tool and train this language model to do X, Y, Z, and it's going to be profitable for me. Like I can see a lot of new, I'll say, scams and tactics that people are going to be using to get people to give up their hard-earned money. And I will also believe the government is going to be trying to use some of that to use a way to defend themselves against possible attacks. But there's no telling what billions of people are going to be doing with this new tool that is now available to them. And it's for free. I mean, and again, I wouldn't focus on how it came to be. That is like too late. It doesn't matter. What matters is how it's going to be from now on. But go ahead, Juche, with the video.
yeah. I mean, and the other part is even if it's not free, like like there was some pricing I saw before. I haven't been able to see on DeepSeek. They've had some messages about they're under attack and stuff, but their pricing model was looking at, according to some news postings, something like 90% cheaper than ChatGPT. So that's a whole nother disruptor as well. And so if, like I showed you, if the India thing comes along, Alibaba's got one that they're going to want to make money. They have a whole cloud infrastructure that they could, utilize. That's a whole nother rabbit hole. I won't go into the details on that, but Amazon and Alibaba, these cloud providers, they have, you can imagine, peak periods of traffic and then a lot of off-peak periods. So you have like this, you know, curve, and when it gets to a low level, that computing is not being used. It's another rabbit hole, but basically that those times they could potentially make a model that's 95% cheaper during certain hours of the day. I can definitely see that coming along. Let me see. I'll share. Like
By the
it's
way,
11-minute video.
DeepSeek is about cheaper. By the way, DeepSeek is
Yeah.
about 90% cheaper. You pay $40 or $50 for ChatGPT. You're going to be paying $200 for the Pro model, but for the $40, $50 on ChatGPT, you can get that for $10 on DeepSeek. So, and again, those language models, they also learn by people using them. So if you have a lower price and more people using your model is going to learn faster. So let's see, Juche now is sharing the screen. Go for it, Juche.
Yeah. I'll see if I can. But yeah, if you're interested, head over to this guy's channel. Let me include the bottom here so you can see. You guys can see it, right? Inside China there with my mouse.
Yes.
Yes, we can. Yes.
Yeah. So guys, just flick over there and you can see some of the latest videos, some good stuff there. Okay, I'll play it from, I think, about here or something. Talks about like what America can do and the whole narrative that I'm talking about here, you're going to see is from an investment side of view. So
Oh, but I think you're not sharing the audio because we cannot hear it.
no audio.
No
No.
audio.
Okay, I did do share audio.
Oh,
Is it me?
I
I did do
mean,
share.
none of us can hear it.
No.
Okay, I paused it right now, but let me see here on this thing here. Share. Okay, sorry, I think I had to flip a switch. I think it might.
Need to be invested
Yes,
on the
now yes.
fastest and most advanced semiconductor investment related
There you
to
go.
the artificial intelligence industries. The investment thesis prior to DeepSeek was that in order to stay ahead of China in the AI race, trillions of dollars need to be invested on the fastest and most advanced semiconductor chips, and trillions more for the AI server farms and the energy required for all those. Now, DeepSeek has completely upended all of this thinking from the software and applications development side. DeepSeek works as well as our top AI models, and it's free. And so this has scrambled the investment theme about the hundreds of billions of dollars that have already been poured into artificial intelligence. And many have concluded that we won't be doing it anymore, that the AI theme is dead, it's over. But that conclusion is off, because that is not our system, and that's not how our policymakers and our business class respond. DeepSeek surprised everyone who does not understand the Chinese system and how Chinese companies and engineers innovate around problems.
Continue,
Sorry, I
Juche,
was
think.
muted. I was muted. Yeah, I didn't want to have double audio. But he's going to give the examples now on how what the Americans do when there's a superior technology or product, and he gives a few examples, which is funny.
Okay.
And people may think, oh no, it's for the other reasons. Yeah, they're spying on you or whatever. Okay, let's see.
But those who say that the AI investment theme is dead doesn't understand the American system. In the United States and Europe, we cannot build new cars for under $50,000. China can build them for $15,000. So we ban the Chinese cars. Our companies cannot build low-cost, high-quality telecom equipment that competes with Huawei. So we ban Huawei. Drug makers in China and India make cancer drugs for $20. So we say that those cannot be sold in our markets unless they go through American or European companies that sell them for $2,000. That's our system. So DeepSeek will go the same way everything else goes. The rest of the world can buy affordable cars, and our young families cannot. The rest of the world can buy affordable medicine, and our patients cannot. The rest of the world will be able to use the best AI models for free, and our users and developers will be paying $20 a month or $200 a month if you need.
So I'll just skip over to the, you guys can watch it yourself in full, trying to make this a short thing, but he goes to the investment thesis I just want to play, which might get, he's talking like should be wiped out if it was a real capitalist system.
Says others believe that DeepSeek avoided the huge costs that Western firms need to deploy just by mimicking them. And none of that matters very much. DeepSeek does work, and it doesn't matter how much it costs them to build it, because now it's free to use. And it also doesn't matter how it works. But just like we send investigators in after a plane crash or shipwreck, they're trying to see what they missed.
Pause.
Meta is Facebook, and they've got 4 teams.
This is the post I'm talking about on Meta, you see? Like,
Yeah.
they accuse Chinese of copying everything, right? But look at this. Look what Meta posts there. Guy benchmark adding insult to injury on okay, now look at this. Engineers are moving frantically to dissect DeepSeek and copy anything and everything we can from it. I'm not even
Not even
exaggerating.
exaggerating. Yeah.
So this is the part that they are copying everything and anything. So continue. That's the post that I saw. I was like,
Yeah.
wow, man. Roles are reversed. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to get to this one. It's another minute away,
Well, go ahead.
but just to lock in what the investment, the numbers are, right? So the theory is that DeepSeek's going to get banned. So let's see.
Trying to work out how DeepSeek developed an open source model that's better than theirs. Here is what is at risk for these companies. This is capital already committed, just from 5 of the biggest names: Microsoft, Amazon, Oracle, Google, and Facebook, Meta. Just these 5 companies will spend over $250 billion on developing faster chips and the facilities necessary to run their models. Now, in a truly capitalist system where new information is digested quickly.
What is not included here is the acquisition of nuclear plants that Microsoft, Amazon, and Google are already coming after. So this does not include the fact that they are building or purchasing nuclear plants to supply electricity for their own supercomputers or their own warehouses filled with microchips. But go ahead. That is not on this budget. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, continue.
So he's talking, I'll just roll back a couple of seconds, but he's talking, if it really was capitalism, then the stuff would automatically just stop right now, because why are we putting so many billions when they just built it for, let's just say, worst case scenarios? Some people are saying the parent company of DeepSeek, you can find some news articles that the parent company earlier bought $140 million worth of graphic cards. So maybe it cost them 150 million, but it certainly didn't cost them 250 billion.
Yeah.
So it really doesn't matter. But okay.
Truly capitalist system where new information.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, even if it was 250 million, that is 100 of the 250 billion. So go ahead.
Yeah, they're committing.
Yeah. Developing faster chips and the facilities necessary to run their models. Now, in a truly capitalist system where new information is digested quickly and markets react, all of these projects should stop right now. And CFOs would be writing down these investments to zero, and certainly they'd be putting a stop to investing anymore. But nobody can afford to do that, especially given that the solution is right in front of them. They can just call up their friends at Davos and Washington and ban DeepSeek in the US and Europe, and this party can keep going. The truth is, if we had efficient capital markets, NVIDIA would have lost their stock premium months ago when we learned how fast Huawei and SMIC were closing the gap with NVIDIA, and that Huawei chips were actually in higher demand than NVIDIA's here. It should have lost its premium when we learned that users across the world are able to access NVIDIA chips in data centers outside the United States for far lower prices than US buyers could, and that it wouldn't be long before chief technology officers in the US and Europe do the same thing that engineers in China and India do, just by accessing AI farms in Singapore or Dubai, and save millions of dollars for their companies. But that did not happen, because that would really be the end of all this money, much of it coming from governments. They cannot allow it to happen. And this is how crazy things are at NVIDIA. LTM's last 12 months or 1 year of trailing earnings. 2 years ago, NVIDIA's trailing 12 months was $4 billion. Now it's $63 billion. NVIDIA makes more money than half the companies in the UK or in Germany or in France. The
I'm just going to
earnings
go
for
ahead. I just wanted to. This
over
was the forward earnings from analyst forecast, what they think it's going to be in like towards 2030, and maybe this. So the whole idea is that this whole thing, this whole how do you call it, like
Mountain.
forecast.
This is a
Yeah, they're
mountain
saying
of
this.
cash.
Well, that's the forecasted earnings based upon keeping selling these cards, these NVIDIA GPUs and other technology in data centers for AI. But if Huawei comes along with their card and China is able to do it with, you know, a quarter of the power, then it puts all these forecasts into question. And I wanted to leave off just with the zero hedge one on the return to median, like what a worst case scenario could be. So I just want to play this for a couple seconds, and it's very scary. So you're about to see here, and then that's it. And you guys can watch the video in its entirety after your own.
comes DeepSeek, and this was one of the best takes so far. Zero Hedge is saying that if DeepSeek is real, the biggest tech stocks in the world are going to revert to the mean, as we say, and would need to drop 80% just to get back to fair value. And Zero Hedge is right. That's what should happen because DeepSeek is real. The panic is real. We'll link to these articles in the video description so you can read for yourself that top teams are wrestling with how DeepSeek scored, as well as OpenAI for $6 million compared to billions of dollars. So the fact that DeepSeek is a Chinese company will make it easy for filing.
Yeah, and then there he talks about this one on Stargate for a data center. I'll stop to share there, but the point was that the return to mean represents a potential up to 80% drop on NVIDIA stock. And you can imagine what that means for the rest of the NASDAQ and everything else. And in
And
turn, what
S&P
it could mean
500.
yeah, and what it could mean for crypto as well that follows stocks to a degree and stuff. So yeah, that's basically what the implications are of this whole thing.
Yeah, another thing that I want to remind people, we made a video about this NVIDIA thing, and there is a correlation between when the US tried to sanction China to acquire NVIDIA microchips, and then you see a spike on NVIDIA's purchase, and we found a few companies that were just being created to provide those microchips to China. Now, one thing that I know about the Chinese, they're fantastic at copying things. So if they got their hands on a few dozen of those microchips, it's a matter of time before they find ways to do it better on their own way, though. So I think they purchased a lot of NVIDIA's microchips, and I think they now found a way with Huawei and their own companies to make them better.
Yeah.
And one other thing is they also create an AI that runs with less demand of microchips because they didn't have access to as many. So I think what happens to Chinese is what my ancestors used to say. The US removed the teeth from the Chinese, and they just found a way to enlarge their throat. That's pretty much what they did. You took something away from them, they found a way to adapt, though.
Yeah, and Huawei's coming out. It's been in some articles. Huawei's come out with their equivalent to the NVIDIA's H100, which I think I saw. I think it was around $35,000 per card, is the price on those cards. And the Huawei one is to be the equivalent one is this Ascend 910C model, and they're supposed to be in production as of now, and it's already running part of DeepSeek's AI power. So when you query the AI for, it's called the inference, I think, that part of the queries go to the Huawei GPUs. So they're not even using NVIDIA's part of it. So, and that's only going to grow as production ramps up. They had some supply issues with this whole sanctions, but again, like China, they're like they work around this kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't bet against China.
No, not in terms of circumnavigating sanctions and be able to overcome problems. One thing that there are benefits to, when people think that democracy is the best way to go. I'm reading the book, Democracy, the God That Failed. Democracy is not the best way. I'm not saying that China is the best, but it has its advantages. When Chinese leader Xi Jinping say we're going to go in this direction, there's no questions. That's the direction. So if he's wrong, yes, there's a big problem. But if he happens to be slightly right, it's a huge positive. And I think there is this anti-sentiment in China that we need to beat the West. And Xi Jinping said we need to do this to beat the West. I see the population being behind him. Now, still around China, there's another company that's now, he was based mostly in Asia, which is the USDT Tether company. I think we can just go into that as well. I had a problem with USDT for a very long time, but it's a company that has shown resilience and they have changed a lot. Now they are trying to, I can share my screen here. It seems like they're going to have their USDT. Is okay for us to shift to that now, Cora, or is a bit too abrupt?
Yeah, I was just the only thing I wanted to say, if I wanted to ask you if you wanted to show the graph where you can see that it's likely that China was buying a lot of.
Oh, yes, that graph. You have that graph there? Let's have
I
that
have
graph.
it here, and it shows clearly.
Let's show that graph
You
because
you can explain it better that way.
yeah,
Let me show.
yes, yeah. Yeah, I think it's important to show that because we show on the video, but I think a lot of people didn't catch on that. So, um,
Yeah, give me 1 second. It's in our video about NVIDIA basically
yeah.
here.
So that's the video, and here's something that I want to explain to you guys. So what happened is on the last quarter of 2022 is when the sanctions came into China not being able to buy NVIDIA microchips, which is right here. Okay. Now you can already see that went a bit up here on the last quarter of the year, and then it just went all the way, like almost climbing straight up. Now, what happened here in my theory, and I explained that well on the video, is that once the sanctions were here saying that China couldn't buy, we saw a birth of companies around this period of time, companies that has never been involved on AI. They have no past on AI. They have some of them even have some criminal past. And what we saw was they were creating companies in Dubai, and those companies in Dubai were purchasing billions of dollars worth of NVIDIA microchips. And then we found out that those companies were literally just being a facade to buy those microchips and send to China. And that to me explains, maybe not all, but some of this huge spike. China was like, we got sanctions, and some other people adapt, creating companies and purchasing billions of microchips on the behalf of China. And I think that causes this. People saw a lot of orders, a lot of companies buying microchips. Again, I'm not saying 100% of this is caused by China, but there's some of China here. So the sanctions did not stop the Chinese from getting those microchips. It just created another barrier. And now we do not know how many microchips China got because it created a black market. So this is the part that I'm talking about here. And if you want to find out more, go and watch the video. The link's going to be in the description, and you can see the explanation there of the companies that were created without any background on AI technology, just literally ways to buy the microchips and send to China. One of them was a company created with links to Xfusion. So you're going to see more of that on our video.
Yeah, I think that I've been reading some people saying that they created their own chips and their own technology, but I think it's more this. I think this seems easier to achieve. I mean, they did it. They had these fake companies just to the same way that the sanctions were not working for Russia. They have their ways to still sell oil and all of these trades. It's just more expensive, but I mean, sanctions it don't really work.
Yeah. Thank you I think that nails yeah, if you guys want to find out more, just look at the video. The video is there. Now I want to go to the USDT company, and I want to focus on something that people may not be aware of, which is the possibility that there is People think when they go to crypto, they are free from freezing accounts and things of that sort, and that's not true. I just want to show you guys here. So let me know when you can see my screen.
I can see it now. Yeah.
Okay, so now a lot of Bitcoiners keep saying that you can do everything you do on Ethereum on Bitcoin, and to an extent that is kind of true. But now you can see USDT will be coming to Bitcoin and the Lightning Network. Now, I'm not sure if they're going to be able to do this on layer one because layer one is a bit too slow. However, I don't see how they're going to be able to freeze accounts for USDT on Bitcoin layer one. I'm assuming this is what it means here. I can see the possibility of them being able to freeze accounts and freezing balance on USDT on the Lightning Network. However, if the person runs their own node, that's going to be a limitation. So for those who do not know, if you do have USDT on Ethereum or some other smart contract chain, EVM compatible, Tether can freeze your account. People think, oh, I have cryptocurrency, they cannot freeze my account. Even if you have on a cold storage, Tether would be able to freeze your ability to move that balance. Now, what I like about seeing this, if it comes to Bitcoin layer one, then there's no way to freeze the balance. If it comes to the Lightning Network, if you run your node, there's a way for you to circumnavigate the possibility of them freezing your account or freezing your balance. So that to me is something that I really like. And once again, those are the advantages of the Bitcoin over other blockchains. Whatever is on Bitcoin layer one cannot be frozen. Whatever is on Bitcoin Lightning, if you run your own node, they will not be able to freeze your accounts. So that is something that I think is very important and very significant if they manage to pull that off. Now, there is true to the massive view, like what you do, you wait until that comes on a network which is sovereign, such as Bitcoin. So this is the headlines. So Tether latest move puts USDT directly on Bitcoin's infrastructure, allowing stablecoin transactions to settle faster and more efficiently via the Lightning Network. Once again, on the Lightning Network, they may be able to freeze your account, but if you run your own node, no. So Tether, the world's largest stablecoin issuer, announced its integration with Bitcoin's BTC ecosystems, making a new step in the stablecoins expansion beyond traditional blockchain networks. So I think this is great. And you already see here that it was revealed on January 3rd on the Plan B conference in El Salvador. El Salvador was the first country to use Bitcoin as, I call it the term, as not unit of account, as legal tender. That's the term. So El Salvador was the first one to use Bitcoin as legal tender. And one other thing that I want to talk about El Salvador here is the fact that the law has changed. When Bukele made Bitcoin a legal tender, I had a problem with the bill, and I think the Article 14 said clearly that it was either Article 7 or Article 17, Article 14 on the bill say that Bitcoin must be accepted was by compulsion. Now it's no longer compulsory for anyone to accept Bitcoin in El Salvador as a legal tender. So now it's a true legal tender. It's not by force, it's optional. You can use Bitcoin, and the merchant may choose not to receive Bitcoin. I think he did that with the pressure of the IMF. So today, I feel better about El Salvador and Bitcoin being legal tender in El Salvador. So those are the things I want to cover. Go ahead.
No, I have a question that I'm not sure I understand. When you say that USDT is gonna be on the Bitcoin network, and of course it's the same company, but like, does it mean that they are gonna have more USDT? Like, is there gonna be like kind of inflation, or how does it work?
So
Do you
they can do by inflation or without inflation. They can just move some of their balance, let's say from Ethereum, and put that on the Bitcoin network. So because of the transparency of blockchain, we know how much is in circulation in all blockchains, right? We know how much is out there. They can have inflation, or they can just move their own balance from one blockchain into another. They can just bridge that USDT, or even the private person. We can take our balance. Let's say, for instance, if you have $200 worth of USDT, you can migrate your own USDT from Ethereum into the Bitcoin blockchain. So what they're doing is they're now creating smart contracts, if you can speak, like, or infrastructure where that stablecoin can now exist on the Bitcoin network.
Can now exist there.
Now I
Okay.
think it's already possible. I think Marcus is already using USDT on Lightning, right, Marcus? I think Marcus has been using that for a few weeks now, if not more. So what I like about it, to me,
But
is
it
the
was
start of
wrapped, Boof. It was wrapped. Now it's unwrapped now. So
it's
it's
unwrapped.
really,
Okay.
it's unwrapped, yeah, USDT on the Lightning Network. The other thing I was going to say is that related to our discussion from last week, the privacy is going to be fantastic because now people are saying, hey, look, I can make transactions and I can keep it, or payments, right? Because that's Lightning and they're going to be protected. So identity is very important.
Okay, so it's going to be more private because it's on the Lightning. And I think also if you run your own node, they cannot freeze your balance anymore, right, Marcus? As they could, they can still do on Ethereum and on the other chains.
That's right. And I didn't know this, but Tether or USDT started on Bitcoin, but for other reasons, mostly for liquidity, had to leave Bitcoin. And so this is just major news. So but it will encourage Lightning adoption. The other thing is, with the change in the law, um, I went to an establishment and they said, we don't do Bitcoin anymore. Like fresh. It just happened immediately. So this is really real time how that change has happened. But we will have to talk about Bitcoin tourism because Bitcoin has changed the landscape of El Salvador forever. Forever. You cannot, it'll go down in history as something amazing.
Yeah, I know it changed El Salvador. I mean, I think what happened with Bukele in El Salvador is there was a lot of hardship. I think there's a lot of mistakes, a lot of pains of growth that the population has to go through. And unescapably, the population went through that, and now they're in a better place. I think that's what happened. That's my view as an outsider. And now they're just by default there. And I think those are one of those things where certain measures bring short-term pain and long-term gain. And I think Bukele made the decision, say, okay, we're going to impose a lot of pain in our population, but we're going to get there. And it's going to be a lot. The same things happened, I think, with Milei in Argentina, where he's putting the population into some like massive amount of short-term pain for a long-term gain. And I think more governments, I hope, will be seeing that. And I think Donald Trump, to an extent, is almost doing that in the US, where we're going to be taking decisions, we're going to be showing our power, it's going to be painful, but in the long term, we're going to have gains. I think that is something that's happening. It happened in El Salvador, it's happening in Argentina, and I hope other countries come to their sanity and see that benefit of the short-term pain for the long-term gain.
I
You
hate
have been there,
to
but
no, that I hate to admit that this thing that you were saying about there are some benefits from countries that are not in a democracy that are I mean undisputable because for example Milei he's not really able to do everything the way he wants because he doesn't the problem is or at least that's my view when is someone that doesn't have good intentions like in my view he has good intentions and the same thing with these people in El Salvador, Bukele. They want to have this short-term pain, and then be better later. But I'm not sure about Bukele because I feel he did really like extreme things, from one day to the other. But Milei is not able to do that, so I'm not really sure what is the difference between those two governments.
I can tell you the difference is this. Bukele took a population that was fed up with violence. Like I know people from El Salvador that are not in El Salvador who migrate out of El Salvador, and they talk about like the amount of gang violence in Salvador is like just dangerous. I know a lot of people who had to flee because of their complications with gang. I know a guy who had scars of bullet that he got shot on the arm by gangs. So Bukele took a population that was really unable to take anymore that level of pain of the amount of violence on the streets, and he promised to revert that. And on top of that, he then implement Bitcoin. However, the population started to see a benefit in terms of less violence on the streets. And what he did is he called the martial law. So as a leader, you can implement martial law. If your country is under crisis or under attack or under war, you implement martial law, which gives you, as a leader, a certain amount of power that is not there in times of peace. So it makes you into like a king dictator. Any leader can do that. What's his name? In Canada, Trudeau did the same thing and backfired on him. In South Korea, the leader did the same thing, backfired on him. But what happened with Bukele, he's like, we need to implement martial law because of the amount of violence, blah, blah, blah. And he gained a certain amount of power by implementing that law, but he was able to give certain benefits to the population, and he did it well. And again, El Salvador is much smaller than Argentina, but they were already fed up with violence. And as the population saw the decrease on violence on the street, they're like, okay, he's doing the right thing. And then he did thing with Bitcoin, and that brought extra tourism, extra money to El Salvador. So he did well. And another thing that I think he did really well is he stood up against the US. People don't remember this, but the IMF went after him when he did Bitcoin reserves. And even the US was criticizing him as a dictator or whatever. And another thing that he did, which I think is fantastic, he put on the jacket of dictator, and he called himself the coolest dictator in South America. He didn't have a problem with the vocabulary. Yes, I'm the coolest dictator, right? So like he didn't let those games from the West affect him. Now, El Salvador is a much smaller country with much less participation, so to speak, in, let's say, global economics, and he managed to pull that off. Argentina is different. Argentina has more dependency and more ties and more participation on the great scheme of economics, and also greater debt to be paid. So once you have that, you have, as you say in Brazil, rabo preso. That's like you're pretty much handcuffed by your debt. And Milei does not want to put the hat of I will be a dictator, and he's trying to dance a different music, because what happened with Argentina, and for those who are in the academy, Argentina has a century of socialism, like just downright socialism, a whole century. Argentina had, I think, 5 presidents in 3 months. There's a lot of things that happened. I think like 2 or 3 coup d'etat in a few years. So like Argentina broke all records in terms of extreme socialism. Now he's taking a population in Argentina who is fed up with poverty and inflation, not so much violence. The
Help
problem with, sorry?
and help from the government, like
And
they really care about that, like receiving
yeah.
money.
So the reform that Milei has to do is more likely to put the population against him, because if you're receiving money from the government and then Milei say, oh, no more money for you, people are going to revolt. So I think just Milei has different challenges than Bukele. Now, I think he has made pretty well. I'm not able to call mistakes because we don't know the full picture. I see a lot of criticism on things that he has done, but when I investigate the criticism, it doesn't hold water. Like I think Milei has been quite wise in doing this tango, right?
Okay.
Give here, like, and I think it takes a lot of open-mindedness, and not if you are a little bit radical, too much to the Austrian school and a bit too much to the socialist, you're gonna have a lot of criticism on Milei. But if you want to look at an open mind and you want to put all the elements, geopolitical events, being elected politician, the 3 powers that works in Argentina, the currency, the fact that Argentina doesn't have dollars. Like if you put all the things into equation, I would say one way or another, Milei is dancing really well. Another thing we need to keep in mind, if Milei screw up this tango, they will kill him. There's a lot of leaders in South America that has been killed when they try to do the right thing. If o Foro de São Paulo is a reality, and it is a real threat. So I think Milei, in my view, I find first a miracle that he's still alive. Second, I think he's doing the art of dancing this tango very well, at least in my view. I wonder what Marcus and other people think.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I had an opportunity over the last couple of days to talk to a good friend that's from Argentina, and he and his wife, and they were very honest. They said, we're just not where El Salvador is. We're just not at that point. And some of that has to do with the geography too. If you think about it, the cities, right? There are very large cities in Argentina besides Buenos Aires. You have Rosario, you have Cordoba, you have Mendoza, you have other cities. It is, as we've said, a larger population. So it's just going to be different, right? The other thing is that you almost have to think about something that we were just talking about, but geopolitically, um, China has a huge influence in El Salvador. Um, China, from Malay, he is now having to change his words a little bit with China. He was not at the beginning so open to China, right? That is gonna that has to change for him. Look, even you we were talking at the beginning of the live. China is playing a pivotal role in Latin America, and it's how he deals with it. I think Bukele has dealt with China in a very good way,
In
versus
Bukele
some
or
in
Milei?
In Bukele. Milei is
Okay.
getting started with his China relationship, I think,
Yes.
and that will shape how things will turn out for the next few years. So it's going to be very interesting to see. Like I said, the as you said too, Booth, imposing Bitcoin may have not been comfortable for people, but most people have seen the change. Seen the change.
Yeah.
I
I
wonder.
well, go ahead.
No, I was just wondering. I wanted to ask before when Marcus mentioned that people in El Salvador, they are absolutely not accepting Bitcoin anymore. Like, why? You think that they didn't really like it? Like, it was just imposed and it didn't really change their life, or they felt it was a problem for them, or I don't know. It's like.
Okay, so that's not exactly what happened. Sorry,
Mhm.
sorry for the background noise, but I want to answer the question because we're live. It's not that it's some businesses did not accept it, but you also see people that are they're following what the academy teaches. They're taking their they're taking their fiat and they're converting it to Bitcoin. They're saving in Bitcoin. They have witnessed their purchasing power increase, right? So that's what I'm saying. But businesses, you have to think about you have fees, right? You have the cost of the equipment. They all had to have Bitcoin terminals or they had to use certain devices on their phone. Maybe they didn't get the best transaction fees. So that's the reason, but there's not an absolute. It's just that some places are saying, you know, right now we're not using Bitcoin, and it's just a business decision. It's not a philosophical one. But the fact of the matter is that the majority of places accept Bitcoin, and there are entire cities in El Salvador. Berlin is one. It's a Bitcoin. It's a totally circular economy, all in Bitcoin. El Zonte is another one. This is a really interesting thing, and now people are literally, and this is within a week, but they're taking fiat and converting to Bitcoin, and they said, no, I'm going to continue to do that. It's a really interesting psychological experiment on human nature. So I'm pretty fascinated by it. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah. So basically, it's like a big father or something imposing something that he feels is gonna be better for them, and then when they get used to it, then then it's like, okay, I think he was right. I'm gonna continue doing this because it's better. My purchasing power is not decreasing, something like that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And there's one other thing too. We've talked about this before. when there is safety, then it attracts capital. And that is a fact, right? So Tether moved their headquarters from the British Virgin Islands to El Salvador, right? El Salvador has changed the laws to have a whole digital asset law. And by the way, please tell me, in Latin America, where can you set up a company and have it operating in 5 days?
Oh wow.
In
No,
five
there's a lot
days, you
of bureaucracy.
and remotely. Yeah, no, so it is all in a play to attract capital, right? It's very, very interesting. So yeah.
In Lazy, the same thing in Argentina. He's making it easier for you to open and close business. And also he made an order, I think an executive order, where if you come to Argentina with crypto up to the value of 100,000, he doesn't want to know where you got it from, or like any declaration, don't have to pay taxes on that. So he's also attracting capital, because one thing that people do love is safety and privacy. So Milei's doing the same thing in Argentina. I think Argentina and El Salvador are going to be two different countries 5-6 years from now as things progress in, I would say, Latin America. And I feel sorry for Brazil. Brazil made the mistake of giving that fourth term to Lula. They called the third, but make no mistake, Dilma Rousseff was in power because of Lula. There was no Dilma Rousseff. So I think it's the fourth or fifth term of Lula now. Well, if it was a huge mistake. And I remember we talking about this on the time of election. Everyone was afraid of Bolsonaro. I'm like, Bolsonaro is not as bad as Lula. And now you see what happened in Brazil with the pigs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys know what happened. They tried to transform pretty much pigs on a CBDC, and they were gonna. And here's the thing that people need to understand about the socialist groups, right? They say we're going to be doing this is for your good. No, we're not going to go across this line. We're not going to do taxation on this. We just want to know what's going on, and then taxation comes. They say, oh, we're going to be doing this, but don't worry, and eventually it comes. So Brazil tried to push the CBDC, and it didn't work. So, sorry, go ahead, Cara.
No, I was just gonna say that it's like, so the socialist is definitely not a democracy. The same thing that Bukele is not, but he seems to have better intentions than the socialists. So it's a little bit similar, but how can you, I don't know.
Okay, I'll explain to you. Democracy would always lead to tyranny. Always. Always. The question is how fast we're going to get there. Make no mistake. And now I already had this view. Now that I'm reading the book, Democracy, The God That Failed, I can see that. Democracy, unescapably, is going to lead to tyranny. Unavoidable. There's no exception on earth. And the reason is the following. Look at what happened to North Korea. If you listen to, what's her name? Naomi Park, the woman from North.
Yeah, it's Park. I'm pretty sure that's the last name.
You know, they promise all the good things, right? Oh, don't worry, everybody should have education. Oh, everybody should have their own home. The promises are very appealing, but what happened is no one asked how we're gonna get there, and the way you're gonna get there, as in Argentina, there is actually a music on Argentina against the capital. The political party has their own anthem and is there against capital. So what you do is you're going to take capital from those who produce and give to those who did not produce. So you de-incentivize production. Once you kill the incentive for production and you increase the incentive for consumption, you're going to have a lot of consumption and you're going to have no production. And then at one point, we have increased the amount of consumption required, but we have decreased almost to zero the amount of production. And then what's going to happen? Tyranny has to take place. And democracy does that unescapably because the majority of people do not want to be responsible. The majority of people do not want to produce. The majority of people do not want to grow up. The majority of people are just not willing to take responsibility. But guess what? Everybody wants rights. Everybody wants rights. But ask them, do you want responsibility? No, just give me the rights. You see all these protests, rights. Which protest is saying we want our responsibility back? I never saw that protest. Give us our responsibility back. Give us the responsibility to educate our children back to us. No more public school. No one protests against that. Nobody wants responsibility. So democracy will always be the will of the weak. It's not going to be the will of the strong. People talk about voting. 100 years ago in the US, you could vote if you generate jobs. You could vote if you're willing to go to the army. There was a price tag to voting. Today, 16-year-olds can vote for nothing. That's the whole problem. Democracy will always manifest the voice of the weak and the coward. And the weak and the coward always going to demand tyranny.
Yeah. The West, to be the West here for a second, they would say, well, the weak are the ones that need the support and the help. So that's why they need the rights and stuff, because they're weak or whatever. You know.
Yeah, but the thing is, another thing that democracy does is endorses the behavior that's not welcome. I never met a parent that I can go to and say, given the option, you want your daughter to be wealthy or poor? Nobody says, no, I want my daughter to be poor. Nobody says that. Do you want your son to be competent and productive or lazy and poor?
Competent and productive.
But when we see poor people, oh, we need to give them help. When we see the lazy and poor, oh, we need to help those people. Why are you endorsing? Why are you rewarding undesirable behavior? Why are you rewarding undesirable outcome?
Something is there background noise in my audio?
No,
right?
no.
So something that I was thinking is, okay, so Bukele, he imposed Bitcoin, right? So everyone had to take the responsibility to know how to use Lightning and Bitcoin, have their devices and stuff, and that is why they are ahead in, a lot of countries, mostly in Latin America. In Latin America, most people, they don't even know what Bitcoin is yet. At least that's my experience. And but still I see the same. Like, he imposed that. He is not, it was not a democracy, it was not a vote. Well, they voted for him, I think, right? Yeah.
But not for his
And
decisions.
not for his decisions, exactly. So it's the same, like, there's Brazil imposing, let's say, CBDC using pigs, and then Bukele imposing this. It's just that the outcome, one is good for the population because they have to struggle a little bit and then be better, and the other is just giving away your privacy and other stuff.
Yeah. The difference is one vote for a capitalist, individualist. They elect Bukele, who is influenced by the Austrian School of Economics, and then Brazil vote for Lula, who's influenced by Karl Marx. So the difference is one vote for a capitalist and one elected a socialist. If you elect a good capitalist like Milei, like Bukele, even if those people become quote unquote dictators, it's going to be a better outcome than a socialist, because socialism will always lead to dictatorship. They're always going to manage to manipulate the masses. And especially now we do have social media, right, where you can censor and do things. So democracy to me is a huge mistake. I never saw the sense of it. I don't understand it. I think it's, by all metrics, it's the most horrible system you can have. By all metrics. You have to feed a new family every 4 years, not to mention the whole league of politicians that has to be reelected and become wealthy. Because if you enter into a system where you have 4 years of power, and you may fight to continue in power 4 years from now, what are you going to do? You're going to abuse that power because you only have for 4 years or 5 years, whatever it is, the time period. Now, if I have been given this power for life, and whatever I do, the population will be demanding of me and coming to me, and the future of my family would depend on that, is a different incentive. It's a much different incentive. If I know I'm here for the rest of my life, And if they take me down, I'm never going to come into power again. The incentive is just different. It's cheaper to keep one family wealthy than to enrich the amount of families that democracy demands. And always you're going to be manipulating the masses, always, because it gives you a short-term view, a short-term outcome, short-term everything. And then when you short-term everything becomes bad. There's no long-term. So we can make a more videos and more lives explaining this. Especially when I finish reading the book, Democracy, the God That Failed. So
Yeah, to me that's the answer. Is if you choose socialist or capitalist, is what's gonna give a better or worse outcome. But yeah, do you have anything else to? Do you guys have anything else to say about Tether, or shall we talk about the next topic?
I think we can go for the next topic. Tether, I'll be happy to see on if they ever come to layer one. I'm not sure how they're going to do. I think BRC20, but the fact that they're on Lightning and you with your own node cannot have your phones, your balance frozen. And I think most people do not know this. If you use anything except for the native asset, your phones can be frozen, even if it's on a cold storage. I think most people need to know this. Another thing I want to talk about, which is a joke, we're going to end this with the humor, is this one thing. We will see a Dogecoin ETF at one point. So a joke in the crypto space that went right, I would say this is the thing I want to talk about. Grayscale debuts new Dogecoin trust and files to convert into an ETF. I remember saying this. There's a few things about Dogecoin that people must know. As long as Bitcoin exists, Dogecoin will exist. And I have explained this many times in the channel. As long as Bitcoin exists, Dogecoin will exist. And why is that? It's because Dogecoin is because Bitcoin needs a test net that is live. There's a few things you can test on a test net, but there's a live test net for BTC, which is Litecoin. And miners who mine Litecoin also mine Dogecoin. It's a merge mining. So they get the Litecoins and they also get some new issued Dogecoins as miners. So Dogecoin is in a way backed by BTC or secured by BTC. So as long as one exists. So I think we're going to see a Doge ETF before we see a Ripple ETF. And that's going to be something quite interesting. So we may see, if not this year, next year, we may see a Doge ETF. And that reminds me of another Brazilian guy, which is the Dogecoin millionaire. He must be celebrating now. The fact that Dogecoin, which was a joke, is now going to have an ETF, is being taken seriously. So it's a joke that became serious. That's something that I want to share with you guys. So Grayscale, known for its Bitcoin and Ethereum spot ETF, has now launched a Dogecoin trust and filed to convert into a spot ETF. So once you have a trust or a fund, you're very likely to in the future transform that into an ETF. So that's another thing that I want to say here. A joke that went right. What?
No, something that I find interesting is that Doge is going down right now.
I think everything is going down, though.
Everything's going down.
But I
Why is
mean,
that?
I could think that maybe it could go up because of this. What do you think?
Yeah, normally speaking, ETF news makes it pump, but I think the market is heavily, like it's correcting right now. So, this is the trend now down. So let's see where we go. There's another piece of news. By the way, that Dogecoin I was reading in the article is 2.5% management fee they're gonna take. So yeah, enjoy. Let me see. I can put it over my camera here. You guys can see, or I can share the screen. I might be able to see better.
Yeah, it doesn't look right now. It's too small.
Okay. Yeah, let me share this this thing. Well, we have some big news, I would say, on the Bitcoin side of things. from mempool.space. This is a legendary moment here. 1 second here. Let me just make this wider. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Yes.
This is a legendary moment here in the Bitcoin world. I've been alerted to, and I almost didn't believe it. A month or two ago, as I recall, Bitcoin had, nearing 200,000 unconfirmed transactions. It was always in the 6 digits. But the Bitcoin mempool now is pretty much empty. So if you need to transfer Bitcoin between wallets, now is a fantastic time at, take a picture and frame this on your wall. 1 Satoshi a byte, 14 cents equivalent right now, given the market's dumping and people are possibly moving stuff. But you can see the blocks have not even been full, except this last one may be close, 3,000 transactions. The last couple of blocks here, they were full for a bit, and then a lesser one. About 3,000 and change transactions per block. That's how we are right now. So it's going left to right, or you can reverse it, mempool.space. But yeah, there's here we go. So that just went through 1/3, and now we have transactions building again. So we're in, look, triple digits now, unconfirmed. This is I don't know. Someone asked me, and maybe for you, someone can answer. I don't know. The answer is this bullish or bearish for Bitcoin? I don't know. Stop the share, but yeah.
To me, it shows efficiency, or at least a balance between demand and offer, right? To me, that's bullish. I think when there's too many transactions wanting to be processed, it shows inefficient in the space. So to me, that's bullish. I don't know if you can pull a graph there. I think 2016, 2017 was the craziest moments where the cost for transactions went to an average of $60 per transaction, and now you are averaging a couple of pennies. So that shows efficiency to me on the Bitcoin blockchain. Also, another thing that I see here with that is there's less retail transacting on BTC, and that to me is good news. It's becoming less and less an asset for retail. It's becoming more an asset for wholesale. I think that's another thing that explains that. I never saw, honestly, like 120 transactions, like a 3-digit mempool. I never saw it. And blocks being empty, that is good news. That means there's no more those what was the meme coins explosion on the Bitcoin blockchain that was
the ordinals.
great.
Yeah, there was a question. Yeah, there was a question, in the chat room and stuff. Is now a good time to mint ordinals? And I would say, yeah, probably. I mean, if that's your thing.
Yes, if that's your thing. But to me, I think Bitcoin eventually is going to be proven to be not an asset for the people, but for the sovereign. And I think we're going to see less and less retail and more wholesale transaction. Then those numbers are going to be more equal. I see a lot of people refusing to buy BTC because it's 100K and they want to buy something cheaper. So they don't know. Most people who come now to the space do not know you can just buy 1 cent worth of BTC, $1. You don't have to buy the whole thing. They're used to the shares, working by on the whole thing.
The other thing is maybe, I mean, I don't know, but is Lightning actually, are these layer twos actually doing their job? Like, are people getting on board with that now? So maybe that's something that's lessening the load on the number of transactions.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Lightning. I don't like Lightning. I don't like to use Lightning. I know a lot of people like to use it. The reason why I don't like to use Lightning is because I don't want to be selling my Bitcoin. I don't want to be trading my Bitcoin for coffee. I have better use for my assets. To me, that's the biggest issue with Bitcoin. I much rather use USDT for transactions on a BNB chain than to be using my BTC and my Satoshis every time I get a cup of coffee. I don't drink coffee, but I mean, like, I get a sandwich, I get dinner. I don't want to pay that in BTC all the time. So maybe now I can do it with USDT. And I also met a guy who is a developer on Lightning, and he said Lightning cannot do what people think it's going to do, because always you have to settle on the layer one with a limitation. But I think Lightning is good for those who are quote unquote maxis. but I would use Lightning with stable coins instead of use Lightning with BTC. I don't want to be doing that every time I have dinner, every time I buy a T-shirt or nah.
Yeah.
So there were some other events or news that you wanted to mention to talk about, Yucha? Maybe to close up.
Yeah, I mean there's so many things. I don't know what we have time for. We've been going for a while.
Yeah,
But
just
we can quickly skim over things. Last week we had, I think the biggest thing in terms of the US is in geopolitical news is the new FBI director, Kash Patel, I think it is, and Tulsi Gabbard, and RFK Jr. for Health. Um, and so those ones were interviewed last week, and I think there's some votes going to come up this week or soon, and then we'll see who gets confirmed. Hopefully they all get confirmed. Otherwise, there's going to be some warring in government, and that's going to lead to issues, and hopefully it doesn't affect the crypto space, but it could lead to the whole debt scenario, that being sort of a quid pro quo for raising the debt ceiling and stuff like that.
Yeah, I
Um,
think
Go
so.
ahead, go ahead.
What has been Tulsi Gabbard assigned to, Juche?
That was the what's it called? Homeland Security.
I think she's competent to that.
Yeah, I believe it was
IFK, I
Homeland
think,
Security.
yeah. No, the other guy, Miss Cash, I don't know what his expertise is, but
FBI,
I
yeah.
FBI, okay. I want to see a Tulsi Gabbard as the first female president of the U.S. I really think she's very competent. And once again, it's a difference between electing a capitalist or electing a socialist. I honestly believe, in my view, she would have been the best choice for president, even for this election, if she was on the ballot, but she wasn't. So, but I really hope to see her on the next election, since Donald Trump cannot be elected anymore. So, to me, the people
Well,
that are
well, there
surrounding
was
Trump are good. Go ahead.
well, there was an initial motion from one of the Republicans to allow a president to serve a third term if their two terms weren't consecutive. So that was submitted. I don't think it's going to go through right now, but there's still 4 years to pass that.
Yeah, I do enjoy to see the people that are around Donald Trump. Like RFK, Gabbard, Elon Musk, all the main, I'll say, entrepreneur capitalists, competent people around Trump. So I'm enjoying that. And I really enjoy the fact that the US is sending this message of a strong country. I love the way that the situation with Colombia got solved. I mean, imagine this. Imagine how weak was the perception of your country when Colombia challenged you. That is how
Yeah.
damaging Biden was for the US. And I love the way that Donald Trump just said, okay, everything got solved in less than 24 hours. US needs to send a message of a strong country. One other thing that I want to, since we're going on geopolitics now, is the situation on Ukraine and Russia. As I mentioned in the beginning of this whole conflict, Ukraine would be wrecked and would lose. And I think we're seeing the results of that now. Zelensky is really desperate. Ukraine is, by all metrics, losing this conflict. They're not going to see the territory back. Russia is advancing and gaining more and more territory from Ukraine. I have made some investigation, and it looks like Vladimir Putin wants to get all the space in Ukraine where the population is predominantly Russian. So if this conflict doesn't end soon, Vladimir Putin will continue expanding into Ukraine. He will not come to the far west Ukraine, because then the majority of the population are Ukrainian. But on the area which has invaded so far, the majority of the population speaks Russian and they have connections to Russia. So Ukraine, in my view, lost this war And it's just shameful. And I think even one of the people assigned by Donald Trump say, I feel sorry for Ukraine. They were told a lie from the beginning that they can win this conflict. They cannot win this conflict. This is literally officially being announced by the people running the power right now. And I think Zelensky is not taking that very lightly. However, since the beginning of this conflict, since before the conflict, I remember mentioning that Ukraine could not win and everyone was against me, calling me. And once again, I'm not like picking up sides. I'm not like wanting to be on the side of Putin. I'm just looking as things are. I see what happened with Georgia, and I can see that Ukraine is just another Georgia 2.0, and it's just not going to happen. Now,
Yeah.
am I happy that Europe's going to be more peaceful? Another thing that happened this week geopolitically, they finally adjust the doomsday clock. We are now 80 seconds to midnight. For those who do not know, is that there's a clock where shows how closely we are to doomsday, and this is the closest that has ever been. So
What
they
was the last?
actually, well, I think
Like
it was
the
90 seconds. They put 10 seconds closer now.
seconds. Okay.
And
So
just to correct myself, it was it's not Homeland Security. It's Director of National Intelligence (DNI) for Tulsi Gabbard, but that DNI oversees 18 spy agencies, which Homeland Security is one of those. But yeah,
Thank you, Richard. Are you gonna show the clock, Poof? Yeah. I think
I'm
we
getting the clock. I
can
think
pull
we
it
can
up.
close
And
because
then
this is something. Go ahead. I
Mhm.
just want to show here.
I'll just say
So
there's a
this
lot of yeah. Go ahead.
this one shows. So this is doomsday clock. This is their own Wikipedia. They represent the likelihood of human to made global. Oh, sorry. Represents estimated likelihood of humans to make the global disaster or catastrophe. And there's a committee that adjusts this fluctuations and threat criticism
Yeah, there's a website link there.
online.
But do you have the
Oh.
actual clock? Because I know there's one
Yeah.
that shows.
It's on the website link at the top there.
But you see here, 2025. Okay, this adjustment. The link is right here on the top.
There, yeah.
Yeah. So it's now 89 seconds to midnight. Okay, so closer to midnight, the Science Security Board sends a signal. So here we go. So this is a statement for 2025. This is the closest it has ever been. The reason why I was on the Wikipedia is because I want to show you guys this. There's a history here. You see? 7 minutes, 3 minutes, 2 minutes. This was in 53. Then 7 minutes, 12, 10, 4, 3, 6, 5, 2. And now here we have it. 2020 was 100 seconds. 2023, 90 seconds. And 2025, 89 seconds. So it's just 1 second adjustment.
Yeah, just 1 second. I actually really thought that it was gonna be less this year with
Yeah.
everything going Ukraine and Israel and all of this.
Yeah. So here we have it.
Cool.
They put 1 second, and I think they did this. My interpretation of this, I think they did this because of Donald Trump signing U.S. out of some of the global institutions like the World Health Organization. He's out. The Paris Accord. He's out. And big mistake in my view for the clock. They count climate change as a possibility of the human disaster. So I think they trying to send a signal to Donald Trump signing the bills that he signed. They decided to, whoa, 1 second.
Mhm.
When they didn't do this for Biden with the whole conflict that started in the Middle East, Iran, and so on. So
Yeah,
I think it's becoming a political instrument right now.
maybe. Yeah.
You want to go over some headlines, or should we just close it here, Joshi?
I mean, there's so much. The lengthy stuff. If people are interested, check out the latest Arthur Hayes blog called "The Ugly." His latest post, and he has some bold predictions. Obviously, not financial advice, but definitely some good reads in there. Maybe it's something for next week's session because this one's gone a bit long, but there's definitely some good stuff in there. And then if anyone has questions, maybe during the week on Clubhouse, if you have any questions on it after you read it or check it out, let us know, and then we can kind of answer them on there, and then also on the next Sunday room.
Okay. I think we can do it on another Sunday. And I think what I like about the article, he and I are in alignment on our prediction of inflation being back. So I think that is one, inflation will be coming back. That's something else people need to be aware of.
Yeah.
So
And the other headline that I discovered, I was watching a video I played on we played on Clubhouse this past week, was that interview from the Investing News on YouTube. And the guy was mentioning about a bank failure. There was a bank failure in the U.S. In October of last year, and it got a bailout, so to speak, slash bail in. But yeah, it got a bailout essentially because the FDIC, uh, I think it
took
was a
over.
bailout.
It was partially bailing. I think what happened is the FDIC took the bank, and then they cover half of the insecure deposits, which means if you had anything above 250,000, half of that got covered by the FDIC, and the rest is on you. So is the first step on the right direction in terms of bailing banks.
Yeah. So there was
Yeah.
there's that happened, and then and that's on the FDIC's official website as well. I was looking it up from the video. Then there's a whole video um from that gentleman that was interviewed on what's going on with BRICS in terms of the bridge, how the BIS essentially said, yeah, we'll go along with this thing, Bank of International Settlements, we'll go along with this thing. And then they were going along with it for 4 years. And then at the last minute, they pulled out. They said, we can't work with you because sanctions and this and that. And so the idea from the interviewer is that the BIS were just spies for the US and the rest of the world in terms of seeing what the BRICS are up to in building this thing they called the On Bridge, and it's now renamed without the BIS to now just the Bridge, which is what they're doing, able to trade within their BRICS nations, and also flying under the radar because it happened around New Year's, and maybe some of our viewers were drunk or otherwise intoxicated, and was Indonesia and Thailand joining BRICS as well. So that's they're two of the latest members. And Indonesia has a really growing middle class, not middle class, but consumer, as determined by people who are spending who can spend $12 a day or more, and that's estimated to grow to be, I think, almost. There was a chart from the guy put up, but almost 300 million consumers potentially in by 2030 for Indonesia. So it's a super growing thing. So I mean, I'm talking to people, but the light bulb's not going off. Like people in Canada and US and the West, like to have 300 million people that are in a developing sort of country that are able to purchase stuff. That's a whole new opportunity as an entrepreneur, as a capitalist, as a business. I mean, they need all the things that the West is looking into, whether it's, roads, bridges, consumer things, whatever it is, accessories for the car.
iPhones, Apples,
Yeah, and
devices.
what comes along with that is for us, we can, okay, the average person, okay, we can't develop an iPhone competitor. It's a nice consumer. What am I going to do? Well, there's, let's say, the accessories market. People want a case for their phone. Now all of a sudden you have 300 million people who will buy your case versus 40 million population in Canada. And that's not counting consumers because it's much less in terms of you don't have the old people are not buying it. The young people are going to school. They don't need it yet. But that middle area is not even going to be for Canada, 20 million or something. And then for US out of 300 million, who knows what that is and who knows where that country's going. So this represents a whole new economy and stuff. That's where I'm looking at, in terms of telling people if you're doing something, look outside of the box, so to speak.
Yeah. Another thing about Canada, I think as of yesterday or today, the tariffs are there. 10% for petrol, and I think 25% for everything else. 10% on the goods of China. Also, those tariffs are already in place. And there's a reason why the tariffs are only 10% for petrol, is because once you put too much tariffs on petrol, that's the cost of energy. Energy is pretty much the base of everything you produce. So inflation is going to go skyrocketing. So Donald Trump, again, he put the bar really high, but he already started to implement those tariffs as a way to leverage negotiation between countries. I think he wants Canada to be more responsible with their borders. And unless they do that, he's going to continue tariffing those countries. Now, another thing that is also happening is tariffs coming to South America as well, as in Brazil. Now, Brazil is in trouble because Brazil already has tariffs for goods coming from abroad. We are preparing some content for you guys. We're going to be talking about tariffs in the future, but some of those tariffs on Canada, which people and I myself thought wouldn't be implemented, and I think he will only using that as a leverage weapon of negotiation. I don't see him wanting to have these tariffs permanently. So, but yes, thank you for sharing that map right there. So
Yeah.
this,
You go ahead. Mhm.
yes, thank you for showing this map. So it does affect a lot of the US. You can see here the countries, each state biggest export trading partner. And you can see here Canada is pretty much everywhere in the US. And then, of course, Texas, you have Mexico, which still doesn't have tariffs. Switzerland doesn't have tariffs, but here on the northwest, you see China, and China already has tariffs. You see China here as well, China here, and Brazil, of course, on Florida. So the countries, and again, China on Alaska is Alaska is very close to China as well. So
But Canada is like,
everywhere, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but the tariffs are there,
Yeah.
they're in place, and let's see how Canada responds in terms of securing their borders, and then Donald Trump removing those tariffs. And one thing that still starts negative, U.S. has and will continue moving towards getting more leverage and more control over Greenland. It's a matter of national security. Donald Trump is not being delusional by saying that, and I think we're going to be keeping you guys updated on how that unfolds as well. So that's something else that I need to continue covering here. Tariffs
Yeah.
are taking place, and there will be moves towards Greenland. So with
Yeah,
that, I think
the main thing on tariff that for the average person that can have an effect, and there were some rooms on Clubhouse the other day talking about this, is the home builders. So a lot of the wood, a lot of the lumber comes from Canada that's used to build houses in the States. So if that's tariffed, or there's, which I think it is, if I'm not mistaken, that's a huge thing. They were saying there's not a huge buffer zone to raise. Like if they raise prices, it's going to be, not good. It's going to raise it significantly for homes. So that's where that's going to matter for the Americans.
yeah, I think we're preparing some materials for this Wednesday. I think for tariffs, we're going to expand more on that. Is for this Wednesday?
but
No,
it's not next Wednesday. Is like not this next week, but
the one
a
after
weekend.
that. Yes. Yeah, so stay tuned. We're going to be breaking down into more tariffs 2 Wednesdays from now. There's a lot of things to cover. Definitely this week was an AI week, in my view, and also a tariff week in terms of the tariffs are taking place right now. But I think we have been here already for too long. I want to say goodbye to everyone. If you did get value from this, please don't forget to like, subscribe, also click the notification bell so you'll be notified whenever our videos become available to you guys. We're preparing videos on new crypto. We're preparing videos on tariffs and everything else in between, geopolitical events that may affect our cryptocurrency. So please do subscribe. Another thing is we're going to also be covering extra risks that people may not be considering in terms of cryptocurrencies. There are certain risks, and once again, the crypto space is not a space that you want to enter without education, and you cannot educate yourself just once. It is a space that's going to require constant education. We are now seeing quantum computers becoming a threat. So if you are into crypto space, understand one thing: you need to remain on top of your game, and you need to continue to get educated, because once again, cryptocurrencies are softwares, and softwares are never ready. They're always evolving, and you got to be on top of your game. So with that, do again, like, subscribe, and click the notification bell. And if you do know someone who can benefit from this, please consider sharing this with someone else. Also, put on the comments below what subject you want us to cover for next week or for our videos. That's it for me. Cora, what else you want to say?
No, that's it for me. I just feel that we got to the end of January and so many things happened. I think we can all agree with that, but it's
yes.
Yeah.
And remember, stay curious, stay hodling, and get educated on the crypto space. That's it. Josh, anything you want to share? If not, I'm just...
No, just I'll see you guys on Clubhouse. If anyone has any questions, comments, join us on Clubhouse Tuesday to Friday, 7 to 9 Eastern. And we'll see you there. I got a special room open now if there's any other follow-up things. So we'll see you there. Clubhouse and CryptoVagabonds.
Thank you, guys.
Take care. Short the Ponzi.
Bye, Yuche. Good night.